8 mortgage application mistakes. So let's get into it right away. So when filling out a mortgage application, you want to make sure you fill it out complete and have all the information that's requested on the application. A lot of first-time home buyers or borrowers in general, even if it's a refinance, don't fill out the mortgage application completely, which then slows up the pre-approval process, as well as slowing up the loan officer from being able to give you a game plan if you cannot be pre-approved. So one of the top things is missing information. When you fill out the mortgage application, you want to make sure that you have included your name, birthday, and social security number. The next step would be is you want to make sure you have a complete work history. You need to have 2 years of work history. Doesn't necessarily have to be in that line of work, but when you're filling out the work history, if you have been on one job for 1 year and your previous job you were on for 4 years, you need to make sure that we have a 24-month work history. So you need to put down both employers, and included in that section, you need to make sure that you have the employer's name, the contact information for the person at Human Resources so we can verify the your employment there. You also need to have your start date for your current employer, as well as a phone number and email address. This information will be used to help us do a verification of employment, which allows for us to verify that you do work there, how long you've worked there, and to get information on your pay history. You want to do the same thing with your previous employer. You want to make sure that you have the contact person's name, phone number, email address, fax number, and name of the employer. And in this case, you want to make sure you have your start date and your termination date. Now, what I will say is buyers or applicants typically think that's going to take a while, but we would rather for you to submit to us a complete application than to continue to go back to you to get pertinent information. All of these items that I'm going to go through are very important to the pre-approval process. So the next thing that you need to avoid not doing on your a mistake that's commonly made on the application is not providing a 2-year rental history. We need to see that where you stayed for the last 2 years. So if you have lived on 123 Main Street for 1.5 years and you lived at 456 2nd Street for 1.5 years, we need to have both addresses incomplete. So when the underwriter looks at the file, we see that we have a 2-year history of you leasing. Along with the 2-year history of you leasing or where you've lived at, if you pay rent, then we need to make sure that that rent amount is included. Some desktop underwriting systems read to see if there's a payment shock in the borrower. So if the borrower is used to paying $1,000 in rent and the new mortgage that they're going to get is going to be $2,000, depending on score or the program that you're using, even if it's a down payment assistance program, that will have a huge difference in what you call payment shock. So you want to make sure you provide a 2-year history of where you lived. Even if you've lived with your parents and you live rent-free, still provide how long you've been at that address, put 0 as your payment, and let your lender know that you lived with your parents or someone for rent-free. The next one is assets. So when we ask for assets, we ask for 60 days or 2 months of bank statements. What we're looking for in the bank statements is, one, your direct deposits. Nowadays, mostly everyone gets their checks direct deposit in their account. We want to see the direct deposit, and we also want to see where your cash to close is, meaning if you're bringing your own down payment and closing costs, we want to see the bank statement that has those funds. Now, if you are using a retirement account, you want to provide the most recent retirement statement, whether if it's a monthly retirement statement or quarterly retirement statement, you want to provide that information up front. Without seeing assets, you can't get pre-approved if you can't show us where you're going to come up with your down payment and or closing costs. The next thing you want to make sure you fill out complete is dependents. If you have 3 kids, the application asks for the amount of dependents and the ages. So they do that because some assistance programs or some programs are household income based, and that allows for us to see how many people are in a household so we can determine what your max household income is for that program, i.e. USDA or possibly a down payment assistance program. The next thing to avoid is not putting down your contact information. So when you put down your contact information, you want to make sure that you put down your personal email address, not a work email address. We'd like to have a personal email address and your best contact number. So if you utilize your cell phone number, please provide us with the best cell phone number to reach you at. If it's a home phone, please provide a home phone where we can reach you at. One of the other most important things we need you to do is to unlock or unfreeze your credit report. So when you're completing an application, you want to make sure that you unfreeze or unlock your credit report so that when it's time to pull credit, we're able to pull through all 3 credit bureaus. So I would say if you know you have a freeze on your credit report, before you submit your application, you want to call the 3 credit bureaus to ask them to unlock or unfreeze your credit report. And some of those bureaus have apps where you can go on and unfreeze and unlock for a specific period of time. And we've come to number 8, the final and last mistake that borrowers make. They don't submit their documentation. In order for us to give you an accurate pre-approval, we need to have all documents so we can review the file. What we need is 30 days of pay stubs. For all jobs that you work. Now, some people say, well, if we give you bank statements, you can see my direct deposits of my pay. We go off of gross income when the bank statement shows the net income. We don't know if we can utilize all of the income that you provided. So what you need to do is make sure you provide the 30 days of most recent pay stubs from your employers. The next step, since we're talking about bank statements, we need 2 months of bank statements, the most recent bank statements, all pages, and no, you cannot black out the account number on your bank statement. I have a lot of clients who think they can black it out because they want us to see their account. Lenders are not trying to take the money that you have. We're trying to lend you money and make sure that we have documentation that bank number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 does belong to Mr. and Miss Homebuyer. Those are important. They need to be the most recent bank statements, the bank statements that have your direct deposits coming in, and then whatever financial, if you have your money in a savings account or if in the same checking account for your down payment and closing costs, we need to make sure we see those as well. The next thing is 2 years of most recent W-2s. If you've worked 3 jobs in the last 2 years, we need the W-2s from all 3 jobs. If you are a 1099 employee and you worked 3 different jobs and got 3 different 1099s over the last 2 years, we need all 1099s. We need to make sure we have documented information on your income. If you don't have your 1099s, I would reach out to my tax provider to see if you can get a copy of your 1099s or W-2s. You also, if you have a system online where you can download your pay stubs, then typically the W-2s or 1099s are in there as well. So you want to make sure you check. And as a last resort, you have the ability to reach out to irs.gov and get a copy of your 1099 and W-2 transcripts, which differ from your tax returns, which leads us into tax returns. In some cases, we don't need your last 2 years of tax returns. However, if we do request them, please provide your last 2 years of tax returns, all pages, and all schedules. If you're self-employed, we definitely need to have the Schedule C, your K-1s. If it's an S corporation, we need all pages and all schedules. This allows for us to calculate your income properly and to see if you have any tax debt. The last document that we're going to request from you is going to be your driver's license and social security card. We need 2 forms of government ID, and your driver's license and social security card suffice for this request. If you can't find one or the other, you also have the ability to provide your passport, the U.S. passport, showing that you have 2 forms of government ID. Now, when sending over these documents, we cannot accept them as screenshots. We cannot accept them as pictures. We need them in PDF form. So the best way to get us the document is to either scan and email those documents or to fax them over so we can see them in the form that we need them. All of these mistakes that I've mentioned, these 8 mistakes that I've mentioned, will slow up the pre-approval process, and it doesn't allow for the lender to give you an accurate pre-approval if he or she does not have all of the documentation that they need. I'm Kevin Jefferson, the People's Lender, NMLS number 1433853. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, you can comment below. Thank you and have a great day.